Kimchi is a living, breathing, actually technically farting thing that, like us humans, has various stages of life. At first, kimchi starts its life young, crisp, and ready to take on the world. Then, after a while, it starts to wilt, break down a little bit, and get very, very sour in its old age. Now, I grew up in a kimchi-eating household because my stepmom is of Korean descent. We even had a whole fridge in the garage that was for kimchi, and Propel and other drinks, but it was mostly a kimchi fridge. Now, before we move on, let me get one thing straight. We will not be making kimchi from scratch in this video. If you want to learn how to do that, I actually made an entire video on the exact topic, so you can go peep that if you want. Process couldn't be simpler, right? Grab some cabbage, you're gonna put some salt on it to release its internal moisture. Then you're just gonna rub it down with a tasty spice paste, pop it into a jar, clean it up, let it ferment on the counter for a couple days, pop it in the fridge in a resealable container, and there it's gonna continue to ferment. I might add that just because your kimchi's in the fridge doesn't mean it's gonna stop fermenting, it's just going to ferment at a much slower pace. With that in mind, let me get to the point of this video. Young, fresh kimchi and old, sour kimchi are both different. They have different characteristics, but they're both great for different reasons. Now, when I say fresh, I mean kimchi that was made within the past couple of weeks. At this point, the kimchi is gonna be a little brighter in flavor and color, and it's gonna be a little crispier and crunchier in texture. And I know that this kind of seems like a cop-out, but in my humble opinion, fresh kimchi is best enjoyed as is. Zero manipulation. Do not manipulate the kimchi. Now, on the other hand, we have older or sour kimchi, which is very fermented. We're talking kimchi that's been in the fridge anywhere from, 2 months plus. This means that it's going to be a little wiltier in texture, less crisp, and very, very, very tangy. And I understand that probably sounds pretty gnarly, but I say this with love. Because sour kimchi is so bold in flavor, it can stand up to high heat applications, right? So essentially, it's the kimchi that you want to cook with. Now, over the years, I've made a handful of videos on how to cook with kimchi. We're talking everything from kimchi jjigae, aka kimchi stew, to kimchi fried rice, to kimchi jeon, which is a kimchi pancake. Lots and lots of kimchi. The kimchi content runs deep. So if you'd like to see those videos, they are posted for you to enjoy. So for this new installment of Kimchi the movie, I wanted to do something a little different, a little more special, a little more creative, if you will. Yeah, let me show you what I mean. We're going to make kimchi fritters using that old sour kimchi we were just talking about. It starts with 3 cups of kimchi, and I'm saying starts because what will begin as 3 cups of kimchi will quickly shrink to 2 cups once we squeeze it out and release most of its moisture and juices, then chop it up. We want our kimchi mostly dried out with minimal juice because it's going to help us shape our fritters in the future, which, we'll get to in a little bit here. Don't waste that kimchi juice. That's good brine. That can make good soup, so save it. Put it in the fridge. Make the fritter dough by adding 3/4 cups of whole milk to a large mixing bowl. Then it's in with 1.5 cups of self-rising flour, half a cup of rice flour, half a cup of chopped cilantro, a tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds, a teaspoon of baking powder, and that 2 cups of squeezed and chopped kimchi. Finish with a pinch of kosher salt, then mix that all up. And notice how I called this a dough and not a batter? That's because, to me at least, the consistency of this stuff is more that of a dough and not runny enough to be a batter. One issue that I notice when people make fritters is often the batter runs too thin and we end up with flat fried pancakes rather than actual rounded fritters. Mix that all around, and at first it's going to seem dry, but it will come together. With this level of moisture, you'll be able to shape these fritters into whichever shape pleases you. Alright, so we're pretty much ready to fry, so preheat that neutral oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. There are 2 ways that you can do this. 1, you can use an ice cream scoop to make perfect little spheres. That's always a fun time. Or 2, the way that we're going to do today is we're going to make what are called canals with these 2 spoons. You look like Alakazam, dude. It doesn't matter which kinds of spoons you use, whether they're fancy silver ones or just regular ones, just make sure they're the same size. It's going to make it a lot easier. Use these spoons to shape about 2 tablespoons of batter into these cutely little oval shapes. Work your way through all of the dough, gently releasing the fritters into the hot oil, maybe 4 or 5 at a time. Just make sure not to overcrowd the pot of oil. Fry those each up until reddish and GB. Golden brown. Transfer the finished kimchi fritters to a rack to drain, then season with a pinch of kosher salt. We're going to do a little extra credit today and make a very easy toasted sesame aioli. Because, come on, everybody knows fritters are better with a dipping sauce. To a large mixing bowl, add a cup of mayonnaise, a clove of minced garlic, a quarter teaspoon of the shugs, 2 teaspoons rice wine vinegar, a pinch of salt, an even smaller pinch of MSG, and 2 tablespoons of toasted sesame oil. That stuff is strong, so be careful. Simply whisk that around until smooth, then taste and adjust seasoning if need be. And there she blows, kimchi fritters with toasted sesame aioli. That's what we call a fritter. The sour kimchi just kind of works with these fritters. They're crispy, they're lacy, super warm and delicious. And because the kimchi is sour, the flavor really shines through. It's super tangy. You can really taste that kimchi. Kim chisel, baby. Kimchi fritters, a lot of fun, a little different, right? The cool new way to use kimchi, especially sour kimchi, which remember is more pungent and bold than fresh. If you learned a thing or two about kimchi, hit that like button. It helps us out here on the channel. If you're new here, consider subscribing, join the Omnivore Nation. I'm going to probably turn the camera off and eat my body weight's worth in aioli, and we'll see you next week. I actually did it. Oh, I wasn't actually gonna do it.